All right. I'm holding my head at a certain angle because I'm using the ring light and I do not want the rings in my glasses. I don't think I do very well without my glasses. Someone suggested I could just do what I'm doing without my glasses, but I really can't see what is going on. Anyways, um, I want to share a story with you, making myself very vulnerable and to let you know that life happens. A lot of people might be very shocked at this, but there are others who have heard this story before. And I just want you to understand that um, nothing is life in life, rather. Nothing in life is guaranteed. And so sometimes you can be going about your business and everything is going fine, everything seems to be kosher, and then suddenly life throws you a curveball and you don't know your head from your foot. So sometimes you see people on the street and some of them are homeless, or some of them will approach you and ask for some kind of assistance, and they might not look like somebody who needs assistance. But if you're in a position to assist somebody, I would encourage you to do so, because really and truly you never know. I was in Halfway Tree many years ago when my daughter was little. She was maybe about 2 years old. And there was not a car in the family yet, and I had gone to pick her up. And when I got into Halfway Tree and I was about to board the bus, I always like to have my fare in my hand. And when I checked in my bag, I never had any money at all. I mean, like I never had not even $1. It was $2 to take me home. And there I was in Halfway Tree, nicely dressed, because, I used to like to dress up in my heels, have long hair, and just looking really fabulous with my baby, who is nice and clean and everything. And I realized I never had $2 to get home. And I looked around and I never saw anybody that I knew. So I wasn't able to ask anybody. I saw a man standing by himself and I approached him. And I said, "Sir, good afternoon. Excuse me. Um, I'm asking for $2 to pay my fare to go home." And the man laughed in my face and he walked away. And he came back and he laughed again and he said to me, "Lady, you serious?" And I said, "Yes, I'm serious. If I wasn't serious, I wouldn't have asked you for the money." And he laughed again and walked away. And I just stood there looking into space with my baby in my hand, my handbag on my shoulder, and my baby's bag. I looked well dressed, nice and clean, and my baby is clean. And he stood there staring at me. And then he said to me, "Lady, you serious?" And I said, "Sir, I'm serious. I don't know what happened, but I don't have any money in my bag." And he said to me, "How much you say you want?" And I said $2. And he gave me the $2. And I thanked him profusely. And I got into the next bus that came along. And that was that. I also remember a time when I was at work and the gentleman asked me for $2. At that particular time, I never had $2 to give him. And he cussed me out. I said, "How? I saw on the tan, when I have the money, I want to know one get and all these things." And I was like, what's wrong with this man? Because if I had it, I would have given it to him. I just never had it at that time. That was that. I remember one evening, a little girl came to the house and she said her mother had sent her. And she came to see my husband at the time. And he wasn't there. I had $100. She said her mother is asking for $100 so she and her brother could go to school the following day. And all I had in my bag was $100, and I gave her the $100. And when he came, I told him that I'd given her the $100. And he said, "You gave her all that you had?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "It's okay, they need it. I don't necessarily need it because we drive to work. When I go to work, I'll get my lunch and I'm going to get to drive home back and that kind of thing." Well, when I got to work later in the day, somebody gave me $500. That was that. Um, fast forward to maybe about 2008, somewhere there, I almost became homeless. People, I almost became homeless. I had been working in the insurance industry and I was doing pretty well. I even became what do you call it, agent of the month at some point, that kind of thing. But at the time I was not driving. I never owned a vehicle. And after a while, what I noticed is that even though I was earning good money, I wasn't getting it. The company would take it back because if somebody buys a policy and it lapses, then they take back what they would have paid you. So what was happening is that the money was coming in, but I wasn't getting it. It was being clawed back. That is what they refer to it as when they take it back. So it was being taken back. So I worked for 19 months. 19 months, and I never took home $1. And that was round about the same time when I had got divorced. So I was basically on my own. And I always said I would never live in Portmore. People never say never. I said I would never live in Portmore. But I ended up in Portmore. I got this nice 2-bedroom place and I was paying a pretty penny at the time, but then I couldn't sustain that, so I had to get someplace else, and I ended up getting a quad from a girlfriend. By this time, I never had any money. I wasn't earning anything. I never had any savings left, and that was that. So she rented me the place, and I moved into it. And I had to put my furniture right around the room, if you know what a quad is. And then my bed was in the middle. And I was going back and forth, coming and going, and nobody knew what was happening. Sometimes I only had like $50. So it would be $50 to come from Portmore on the bus and $50 to go home. And sometimes I only had $50. So if I took the bus, I never had any money to come back. And that was what was happening. For my rent, remember now, I wasn't getting any money to take home. But what had happened is that I had bought 3 policies from the company. One for my daughter, one for myself, and one for my son. And because of what was happening, the policies lapsed. But the money for the policy kept going to escrow. So although it had lapsed, they put the money in escrow. So each month after payday, 5 days after payday, I was able to remove that sum to pay my rent. But it was always short $1,200. I can't tell you how I got that $1,200 to pay every month. But I always found $1,200 and put it on what I had taken from escrow and paid my rent. So there wasn't any money for food, for bus fare, for toiletries, that kind of thing. I don't know how I survived. I really don't know. I shouldn't say I don't know how I survived. God took me through because nobody knew. I never told anybody what was happening. I never did. And I remembered like some days when I was in the office, because the branch manager always said, you can't sell insurance from the office. You have to go on the road. You have to meet the people and you have to do this and you have to do that. I used to make a lot of phone calls and I'd get some sales, but things are lapsing and stuff like that. And I wasn't getting any money to take home. And I remember having this friend and he would come by and say, Angelia, you're not going for lunch? And I said, no, I'm working. He said, come, we'll go for lunch, man. I said, why you come here to bother me and embarrass me? I don't have money for lunch. He says, so who said you have to have money for lunch? I said, come, let's go for lunch. So we'd go for lunch and I would have a good lunch and come back to the office. And in the evening, somebody would say, Angelia, you're not ready to go home. Come, I am giving you a lift. I never asked anybody for a lift. I got a lift home. And sometimes in the morning, somebody would call and say, I'm coming for you, you ready? Yes, I'm ready, stuff like that. And I always got up, even if I never had the $50, I'd get up and get myself ready and somebody would come for me. And on Saturday mornings, somebody would pick me up. Mercy, no sir, I tell you. And let me tell you, I lived like that for, let me see, almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. And nobody knew because I had my nice clothes and I had my shoes and my bags and stuff like that. So I was always dressing up and stepping out. But that aside, I never had money and nobody knew. And like I said, I was almost homeless because if I didn't have that money to take from escrow and where I got that other $1,200 to add to it, I don't know what would have happened. But here I am. And so after a while, I remember one time my girlfriend called me and she said, would you be interested in coming to work in Mandeville? And I said, yes. And she said, all right. And she said, send an application. And when I hung up the phone, the first time when she called me, when I hung up the phone, I said to myself, I don't know why I tell her yes now, because I'm not going to live in Mandeville. And she kept calling every now and then. Have you sent the application? Oh, we're going to send it, I'm going to send it. And I never sent it. And one day she called and she cussed me out. She said, you think I don't know you don't want to leave the insurance? You think I don't know you don't want to leave it? And how's that and crow fat? And I said, all right, I'm going to send it, I'm going to send it. And people, I prepared the application letter. Why is something tickling my nose? I prepared the application letter and my resume and I sent it off. And as soon as I sent it off, there was this deep yearning in my chest for me to get going, for me to go to this place. And I'm saying, good heavens, what is happening? As soon as I sent off the letter, and then it seemed as though they were taking an eternity to get in touch with me. And so one evening, was it an evening or a morning? I was sitting on my hassock and I'm cleaning my shoes. And she called and she said, where are you? And I said, I'm at home. What you doing at home? The people are sitting in the place waiting for you to be interviewed. And I said, but I never get any message. And she said, yes, they sent you a message. I said, tell him I'll come tomorrow. Tell him I'll come tomorrow. And I checked the phone after she hung up. And there was a message there saying that they're inviting me for an interview for this position and I have to come in that day and stuff like that. Happily though, let me tell you something. A friend in need is a friend indeed. And if you have a very good friend, ensure that you take care of that relationship, you cultivate it, and you ensure that you make the best of it in terms of how you treat your friends. Be loyal, have their backs, that kind of thing. The woman drove from where she was at least 2 hours and she came to get me. And she said, be ready at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm coming to take you. She didn't tell me that she was coming for me. It was when she was in Kingston that she said to me, be ready for 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Because I told her to tell them that I'd be there the following day. But I didn't know how I was getting there. And she came for me. And I went and I did the interview. And they seemed pleased, but they never said anything. So they asked if I had a question. And the only question I had was, when should I expect to hear from you? And they said in 2 weeks. And my heart just fell because I was thinking 2 weeks is a long time. But anyway, this was Tuesday. And the Friday morning, I was in the house again and I was getting ready to go to work and the phone rang and somebody called and said, I'd like to speak with my name. And I said, yes. And she said, I'm calling from here and I'd like to let you know that we're offering you the position in this department as so and so. And I was very calm. I said, yes. And she said, when to start and all of that. And I was over the moon. And when she hung up, my neighbors must have thought I was crazy because I just flung the phone and I made a noise. I was rejoicing. I was celebrating. I was beside myself. I was just so happy. I couldn't contain myself. I couldn't keep it to myself. But then nobody asked me what was happening with me because, you know. But I will give you a part 2 to this story because it has more to it. But I need to tell you that when I was in that quad there, let me tell you something. It's not an easy thing to live in Portmore because it was exceptionally hot. In the middle of the day, like on a Sunday when I was home, I could never get into the bed and lie down because it felt like fire. I'm not exaggerating. I tell you the truth. I just couldn't lie in the bed. And I remember one night, I don't know if the light had gone. I think the light must have gone because I had a fan. And let me tell you something. It was so hot. And the mosquitoes were killing me. No, mosquitoes and heat don't mix. And I said I jumped out of my sleep. I was so distressed with the mosquitoes biting me and the heat. And I screamed out and I said, Jesus, help me. And instantaneously, I didn't feel hot again. And I never felt any mosquito bites after that. I slept well until it was daylight and it was time for me to get up. God took care of me during that period of my life. I never lost my dignity because I never had to be walking and begging anybody anything. I never looked any less than I was before. He took absolutely the best care of me. And I'm here to tell you that when life changes, you don't have to succumb to your situation. You can hold up your head. You can trust God, and you continue to live a way that suggests that you're still being taken care of. Because when you put your trust and faith in God, He comes through for you like no other. And it is true. What else was I supposed to do? I never knew what else to do. So I just continued to live. And God just took care of me. And here I am to give Him thanks and praise. I'll tell you the rest of the story another time because I noticed that I'm gone 17 minutes. But looky here. Trust me. God is amazing. He loves you. He loves you in a very special way that the Bible says that He will sing over you. He has asked you to call I don't know why my tongue getting tied tonight. I must be too excited. Cast all your cares upon Him because He does care for you. And I'm here to tell you that I am a living witness. You see this scar that is coming from the back of my neck, that is coming all the way down here? When they removed the tumor, which has left a hole in the back of my head, and that scar that comes along here, that is testimony of the goodness of God toward me. And I just thank Him and praise Him every day because He's been so good to me. And I really hope and trust that if there's anybody out there who is going through a rough time, don't give up. Hang in there because God is going to come through for you. Just put your faith and trust in Him. Believe that He will because He said so. And He cannot lie. And He is not slack concerning His promises. I'm here to tell you because I'm a product of what God has done for anybody who needed His help. I thank you for listening, and I promise I'll tell you the rest of the story another time. Remember to subscribe, to share, to leave a comment if you will, and press the notification bell, and you'll hear what more I have to say next time around. Blessings.